ahead and jump right into this. Could I get a designated note taker for today?
Happy to do it.
Really appreciate that. Are there any new faces or anyone that would like to just say hi?
Hi,
Hello. Okay.
I'm Deshaun.
Oh,
Nice to meet everybody.
I'll say hi. I'm Josh. It's been a while since I've been around. Um, but glad to be back.
welcome back. All right. Let's get started with outstanding RFCs. First up, we have the proposal to add Oracle Graal VM and update Graal VM CE build pack. This looks like it has approval and is just waiting for whatever else to move forward on this.
Yeah. Last I heard was last week, I think. We have involved what's his name? Chris Clark, I think. Yeah, from Cloud Foundry Foundation. To reach out to legal. Initially, their answer was no, not gonna happen. But Sébastien Deleuze brought some arguments to the table. We're still waiting for them to get back to us, but actually it's a good reminder because it has been like 10 days or something. So we'll try to revive this discussion.
That's great. Next up, we have standardized Paketo dependency format. I believe that for the most part, the discussions around this would lead me to go in and say that like we have sort of an ad hoc resolution for the unresolved questions. So I'm probably going to go in and remove those and then ask for a final vote and judgment on this so that we can get this moving forward to facilitate things and make them easier for our friends that are doing multi-architecture build packs.
What's the transition kind of plan, or has that been discussed there? I just know like we're using them in the Node.js build pack, so I wonder like what would be the timeline and an approach to transitioning to something else?
Right. So the timeline on that, I don't know if there's a defined timeline. I think that the forcing function for it is upgrading to upgrading our Buildpacks API version, which I don't know is going to happen right away. So I don't know exactly on that, but that's going to be the forcing function for us to move all the way to this, because we will be removing the concept of stack IDs and replacing them with defining the OS architecture, etc. For the dependencies.
For what it's worth, I think we will actually have quite an active look into what is missing to bump the Buildpack API version, or to be able that Paketo bumps it, because it seems that extensions is close to being unexperimental, whatever that means. And so then this one would be the blocking thing. And it's indeed like there's a platform API version and a Buildpack version that has breaking changes for stack and mix and removal. So that's definitely one of the points, I guess.
For sure. I think that we will also have to do some like reformatting of certain data that already exists, and so that'll just require some tooling. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will be forced out by our upgrading. And then finally, we have add RFC to discourage the use of old Bionic builders. I think that this RFC has kind of been effectively superseded by later discussion topics. So I think that there's some interesting stuff that has been added this, particularly around the idea of allowing us to go upstream and indicate whether or not builders are being deprecated and whatnot. So I don't want to close this out and say, oh, yep, moving on. But we can come back to this. But I don't think that that's what the discussion topic for this week should be around this. Although, except to mention, Ozzy, I believe you did go to the previous C&B working group meeting and brought this up, and there are some notes in the note sheet. And with that, we are all the way through all of our RFCs, so we can hop back and say, are there any C&B updates? Nope. Are there any project updates? I don't see any listed here. Okay, then we can go ahead and hop right into this Bionic Builder brownout for it is part of the discussion that I've linked below. I wish that Dan was here to give a better lay down of this, but my understanding, and Jan, you can feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything, is that due to the sort of due to how quickly we deprecated the Bionic builders after the end of life of the Bionic stack, there was not a sufficient lead time for the Spring community, and so a good portion of them, from my understanding, from what Dan has told me, may still be using are using the sort of defunct Ubuntu Bionics builder and stack. Our goal is to go in, and there is a proposed brownout plan, which is laid out right here. And so I encourage people to come in and take a look and read this, and then vote on it if you are a maintainer. We are looking for a consensus of maintainer votes on this. And so that's pretty much as far as I know. It will be laid out with all of the excruciating detail if you want it right in this post, which is of course hyperlinked below.
Yeah, as Daniel has mentioned in this discussion, the users of Spring Boot 3.2 will migrate to the new builders, and that should happen end of this month, I believe, also. So users, just saying that users who are migrating to Spring Boot 3.2 will get away from the deprecated builders automatically. But unfortunately, all the others on previous versions, they have to know. And yeah, they cannot be automatically migrated as far as I know. So yeah, but this is where the issue lies.
Makes sense.
I'm just wondering, the brownout is like, that's a mechanism for sort of people making aware that later they'll go away completely versus, okay. So it's, I was just reading through it. That was my guess. I just wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah, my understanding is this is also like a tactic used like within the Java community, not infrequently as well. So it is, like just making something unavailable for a certain period of time to break builds and make people look at it.
Yeah. Last time I heard about this was like a year ago in the Spring community again. There was they wanted to deprecate the usage of repo.spring.io for stable releases. And what they did is that exactly the same way they started cutting off the access to stable releases once or twice, just for people, just for people to start noticing. And then indeed people came and complained and just found out what was going on. So yeah, that's the idea. It just reminds me of some dancing clubs and some bars, they start switching up the lights on and off.
Right. Yeah,
Just
I
to
just
indicate
hadn't
people to
seen
leave.
anybody do that.
If you have any opinions on this and the brownout period in general, please feel free to check out this discussion. Okay. That brings us to the current bottom of the backlog. Is there anything else that people would like to discuss?
I just wanted to bring one thing up, which
Mhm.
which came up on our side, and this brownout reminded me. There seemed to be the first gutted versions of Ubuntu Noble, which is 2404. So we could start planning when we want to start producing stacks for it, producing builders, starting to test what changes will be needed. Maybe it's a bit early. I mean, April is the release date, so but on the other hand side, it's there, and I think it gets continuously delivered since like 2310 is out, I guess.
I agree with looking forward. So just hopefully I'm not talking out of turn. This idea, speaking from spring team, I want our spring team I want our community to be moving forward and getting on the laser race. We don't want to be supporting the Bionic stacks or older. We don't want to support that anymore because we're all busy. We have this small group. And so help the community move up to the latest and greatest. Been pushing them to move to Spring Boot 3.1 for months. Spring Boot. Now that I'm getting customers to move up to 3.1 and community to move up to 3.1, now when you're there, you can start looking ahead. So if we're doing this adopt little change thing, we can start to look at. We know that it's coming. We know the new Java version is coming every 6 months. We know a new Ubuntu is coming every 6 months. We know that these things are coming, and instead of waiting until they happen before we do anything, that's how we get behind. Like, we know that these things are coming. We can plan a schedule. We know that, hey, 4 and 10, this is when they're coming, right? The Java versions on 9 and 3, right? Like, we know these schedules. Spring Boot is on 11 and 2. They're not lined up. We're going to have to be constantly doing this upgrade dance. So let's just get used to it. And as we get used to it, yeah, we can start to look ahead, start to plan ahead, instead of saying, oh, hey, here's a bunch of changes now with 24.04. Here's a bunch of changes. Why didn't you give me any warning? Right? The exact same thing that we're hearing while we're having to do the brownout. If we can keep pushing that advance notice, instead of saying, hey, yeah, here's the old version that we're deprecating, we could have said, hey, 6 months from now, this is going to go away. 12 months from now, this is going to go away. So I am fully in this mode on the spring side. And, I have this awesome overlap with Buildpacks. So I'm fully in that mode of, this would be wonderful to say, like, hey, now that you're here, now that you're on Spring Boot 3.1, we want you to get onto 3.2. 3.2, you're not going to have to worry about the brownout. So let's keep on going. And guess what? There's going to be new Buildpacks right around the corner. So yeah, that's...
I am all for starting to talk about a strategy. I think that what we would have to do is like figure out a way to sort of maybe incrementally step up the amount of support that we give to something like a new stack. So, I think the easiest thing that we can do is obviously create the stack and then probably create a set of build packless builders that go into that stack. And then at some point, what we could do is maybe, piecemeal add build packs that are relatively easy for us to port into something like, the next version of Ubuntu. And then I think probably the last thing what we do, and we'll probably have to take the most, like stuff that we have to individually compile, and like the thing that we have the most support for any given release. And then I guess I like the idea of having it out there. I'm not sure how we encourage people to try it at that high level, other than, beyond the fact that people, I think, are much like you, Deshaun, and want to just not have to worry about the all of a sudden the upgrade comes in, the support ends, and I'm now screwed. And so I might as well just get on to a thing, a year early, because it's supported a year early, and now I don't have to think about it until the next version comes out. I'd love to talk about that in a larger setting, and like how we actually do the like maintenance creep for that, I guess.
And And we have, I think, a lot of examples to look at. And I used like, hey, Linux started 30 years ago, Java 25 years ago, Spring 20 years ago. Like I've got these lessons learned from all these other projects. The way that Linux does their kernel releases, you kind of know what's going on. Like, hey, here's the things that are currently in this next release of the kernel. But they kind of have some goals, some targets of what we're trying to do, and that's made well in advance. And it's not for the entire community. Like I don't know if anybody here is looking at the next version of the kernel release, but at least one of us is looking at like the next Java release. What's going to be in that next release? And they make it clear, like here's what's coming. They said it's going to be every 6 months. Like we have this schedule. The way that Java did it on the last one, they said some of the features in this Java release, Java 21, are going to be LTS features. They're not going to go away, but not all of them. Some of the things that they put in, they said, this is early access. This is not a LTS thing. Like it might change. So you have some examples of how we can do this looking forward. And the forward-looking stuff, it's not for everybody, but it's nice to have out there for those people that are looking to contribute, the people that are planning to launch their next, OpenAI in 24, right? They want to know like, hey, what's coming? What are we going to launch on? We don't want to launch on Bionic, right? What are we going to launch on? There's
I agree that we should just early on provide that. I don't expect that everybody immediately jumps onto it, and they will have time, right? With the change to no longer a 4-year schedule but a 2-1, so every LTS should be supported until it runs out. They have time. But after a while, we can approach the Spring community maybe and ask like they should bump their default because it's just the newer base. I mean, Canonical is not fixing every little vulnerability in there. Lots of them are just deprioritized, which I understand in full. So you actually want to provide the newest versions. And in a corporate context, there might even be regulations that make otherwise problems for them.
Yeah. When, just taking Canonical, Spring, and Java, just those 3 pieces, right? When Java said, hey, we're going to release every 6 months, well, the Spring team's like, we want to do that too, right? So that they can kind of go and lock that. Hey, what are you guys going to put in the next release? We'll make sure that when that comes out, that we're ready to support it, right? So there's a picture where like, hey, Canonical wants to make some massive change and they want to have, partners, right? We could start to communicate about like, hey, what's coming instead of waiting until the release comes and then doing the waterfall thing. So there's opportunities, but it's definitely gonna take some planning. That's what I'm here for. I want to be part of that.
Awesome. I think that's a great thing for us to get ahead of. I don't know. I think that could be something interesting for us to bring up in further working group meetings, like maybe have as a standing item going forward.
I mean, from my perspective, like real support for Ubuntu, it's clear. It's in April next year, not before that, right? Because before that, not even Canonical supports it. But I guess producing a stack for it and like build pickles, builders, and then let's see how quickly Buildpacks get added to it is something that could already be started because like it seems to be there, right, out there to consume. But I agree, like, the more complicated build packs, I'd wait for. Who knows? Maybe there are still some changes in there that would even break whatever we checked before. But like the easy stuff, I'd definitely go for it. And yeah, maybe make it a standing item or something for the roadmap for 2024, which I suppose is something maybe Dan, you and myself should be discussing.
Probably. I will have it as a standing item. Okay. Is there anything else that people would like to discuss? All right. Please do check out that plan brownout and please do go vote if you are a maintainer. It closes at the end of today, so it's important that you take a look. All right. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.